What if you had 800,000 pesos for a brand new car? What would you get nowadays? Most likely it's going to be a 1.0 to 1.5 liter, maybe an inline 3 gasoline engine. The alternative is this, the JMC EV3. I'm Cesar Guideroni Bibigel for Zigwheels Philippines, and this is our review for the all-new JMC EV3. To start, the very first thing that you'll notice about the car is its very bright color scheme. That's common nowadays on very affordable EVs, and that may be one element of the car that buyers may want to consider. Here you can see, surprisingly for an EV, JMC fitted the EV3 with a grille. It actually hosts dancing LED lights all around. Flanking the grille are a pair of sharp-looking LED headlamp clusters with inverted L-shaped LED daytime running lamps. Down below is a black-colored lower bumper. As you can see here, it has a light-up front logo, and below that is a camera. So from the front alone, the EV3 has a lot of features that only base variants can dream of. From the side, the first thing you'll notice is the unusual use of white color for the door handles and the side mirrors. Side mirrors are power adjustable, by the way. And I think it will match well with the pink color scheme of the EV3. Yes, it comes in pink. Down below are a set of 15-inch two-tone alloy wheels. And as you can notice, the car has disc brakes on all four wheels. Moving on towards the niceties in the rear, the EV3 surprisingly has a fin-type antenna, a roof-mounted rear spoiler, and a pair of eye-catching LED taillights. And of course, down below are a pair of rear parking sensors, which adds on to the practicality and usability of the EV. Let's see what's inside the trunk. It's a manual tailgate, but as you can see, it has a deep lip, which may pose some issues when loading up on big, heavy objects. You can get more trunk space by folding up the rear seats, but even then, it's not totally flat because it has a large bulge courtesy of the said seats. Here inside the JMC EV3, we have a very airy and very bright looking cabin, which is highlighted by these trim pieces spread around the dashboard, on the interior door cards, and on the steering wheel. Frankly, it feels like a kindergarten playroom or classroom. So for you guys, do you like this color scheme, or would you prefer something somber like gray and blacks in your car's interior? Here we have a leather wrapped steering wheel with some perforated sections. It has buttons, auxiliary buttons for the call functions and the audio system. Unfortunately, it is only tilt adjustable. Over to my left side are soft touch surfaces on the interior door cards. Over here on my right is the center console, which has a dial type gear selector, fronting a storage cubby hole equipped with USB ports and a 12-volt accessory charger. Further back on this section of the car is the electronic parking brake. It actually does have a decent amount of driving amenities, like the aforementioned buttons on the steering wheel, the electronic parking brake, and the dial type shifter. So while it doesn't have a front center armrest, they actually found the budget to provide the car with soft touch materials on the interior door cards, and that's a good spot to rest your elbow on long driving stints. As for the seats, it does appear to be clad in sturdy fabric, but unfortunately, it only has slide and recline adjustability. It does not have height adjustment, but at least for me, who is 5 foot 11 inches in height, the default seat height is adequate. I still have room, a bit of room for my head, and on the lower section, I still have ample room for my legs. Going back to driving amenities, the car doesn't actually have a digital gauge cluster. Instead, all information about the car, like its range, its odometer, strip meter is dependent on the central 10.1-inch infotainment display. The display itself has some input lag when it comes to pressing the apps inside it, but surprisingly, for what's missing, JMC actually added some niceties like a 360-degree around view monitor with several view angles you can see here. It actually has decent video, but I cannot tell you its video quality at night because obviously we're shooting in the day. And it also has Bluetooth, USB, and Carbit Link connectivity. It doesn't have Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, and that may be a pain point for some buyers who prefer that kind of connectivity software on their cars. Additionally, the air conditioning system, it's automatic, and controlling it is wholly dependent on the 10.1-inch touchscreen. Like any other usual automobile, each far end of the dashboard has vents. But one unusual quality is the center vent is actually mounted on top of the dashboard. Going back to comfort, as mentioned earlier, I have sufficient room for my legs, and even if I am a bit horizontally challenged, I still find the width of the cockpit actually comfortable. With having said that, it's actually a good comfortable car if you're planning to get this unit as a solo daily driver. But what about if you have someone with you?
Like, what if you have someone in the back, for example? So let me slide over behind Cesar, and for me, 6'2", this doesn't work. If I don't spread my legs out, my knees are pushing right into the seat, and my head is really rubbing up against the ceiling. Cesar,
How about I sacrifice a bit of space for you?
okay, try. Do you still fit? Can you still drive?
Hold on. Yeah, I can still work with this, but the steering wheel is a bit too close to my tummy for comfort.
Okay. So as you can see, us two combined is pretty much the worst case scenario for a car like this. So if it passes, or at least it passes for Cesar, then that's a good sign for the EV3. But if I slide over here to behind Ken, it's actually not too bad in comparison. I do have to take over the middle part of the rear seat to be comfy because the backrest is pretty vertical. But yeah, in a pinch, a third person can sit here. A fourth person, I'm not sure. Also, because of that unusual aircon placement in the front, it's a little bit hot here in the rear. But what I want to see next is I'm going to be bumping elbows with Cesar if I move in front. So let me get in over there.
So here we are inside the EV3 with two passengers up front. As you can see, we can fit, barely. But one can imagine that our shoulders will make contact when we take hard cornering.
But then again, I think we are the worst case scenario for a car like this. And this is us testing its dimensions to the limit. Two big guys in front. But what about our combined weight? What do you think?
Well, we can find that out by testing the EV3 on the road.
Let's go.
Now we're driving the JMC EV3, and based on its spec sheet, it uses a single motor setup capable of producing up to 67 horsepower and 125 newton meters of torque. That's the figures sound small, but in actuality, the car feels peppy and the acceleration feels quick. And despite the small size and the small numbers of the car, you can get the typical EV experience with instantaneous torque. And that's one thing to consider about EVs. In internal combustion cars, when manufacturers downsize engines, you tend to compromise on responsiveness, in power. But on EVs, regardless of how small the electric motor is, you always get instantaneous torque. And that's the appeal of it. The suspension system is on the harder side of things. It's not really that soft, but regardless, the car remains balanced and stable. Somewhat, that's a good part of it, you know. The stiffer the suspension, when you take turns, it doesn't roll that much. And when you brake, like right now, it doesn't dive, and that's a good thing. We have 3 occupants in the car, but regardless, we still have adequate stopping power due to the 4-disc wheel setup we have. Also, we're climbing right now at some bit of with some bit of incline, but despite its modest figures, it has no trouble climbing up. Per JMC's provided spec sheet, the EV3 can reach up to 115 kilometers per hour. That means it will have no issues keeping up with highway speeds and maybe even perform the usual overtaking maneuvers. For its steering, it is electronically assisted, so one can expect that it doesn't give too much feedback. And for the people in the back, right now we have Ash along with us in the rear seats. He says that ride comfort isn't too bad, not too bouncy, but as he said earlier, the air conditioning system cannot really cool the rear cabin that much. According to the CLTC, the EV3 has a range of 330 kilometers. Paired with that is a Type 2 charging port, which is capable of handling both AC and DC fast charging. As I've mentioned earlier, the EV3 has 330 kilometers of range, but that figure was taken from a controlled driving environment by the CLTC. But now, in real world terms, we currently have 243 kilometers remaining with 73% battery state of charge. We've been driving it around Ortigas under normal mode while taking rolling videos. So with around 20% taken from that kind of journey, do you think its range is enough to assuage your fears of range anxiety? Let us know what you think in the comments. It's also nice and quiet, and that's a big contrast against small 3-cylinder engines, which tend to make rattly noises when you give it the beans. For the rest of the car's NVH, as in noise, vibrations, harshness, well, as as I've gathered, that's one thing JMC compromised on the car. Like, take for example this interior door panel. Doesn't get much way of sound deadening, so one can pretty much hear what's going on outside around me. Tire noise also is very much audible, and one can also hear the suspension system working when you encounter road bumps. For its safety features, the JMC EV3 comes with the basics. It has dual front airbags, anti-lock braking, stability control, 360-degree view camera, as we mentioned earlier, rear parking sensors, and it also has a tire pressure monitoring system. And it also has an assistive drive function, but it is limited to a crawl function, which is useful for slow driving situations such as this one. So overall, the EV3 feels easy to drive. It doesn't feel underpowered because it still provides the full EV experience with all that instantaneous torque. It pretty much covers all the basics from creature comforts and safety. Plus, as you can see, with such a large driver like me, I can fit comfortably. The only pain point that I can find in the car is its NVH. And if you're the kind of buyer who is very particular about that element in a car, maybe you should try giving the EV3, a test drive. Because I can tell you that in all other aspects, it is very adequate, and maybe having first-hand experience with the EV3 will help you find out more for yourself. So with a price of 788,000, it competes against the usual budget ICE cars. And as I've mentioned earlier, that those are typically base models with manual transmissions, and maybe even Spartan interiors. So based on what we've seen so far from the EV3, is it enough as a whole to convince you to take the plunge into all electric mobility via a starter EV such as this, the EV3? And if you want to learn more about these starter EVs that we're talking about, be sure to subscribe to Zigwheels Philippines to catch more car reviews and other fun car-related videos. Once again, this is Cesar Guidroni B. Miguel, signing off.